volunteer.
All right, cool.
Hi, everyone. Hello, lovely people of Web3, crypto, and blockchain. We are in one more live session today. As you know, that Voice of Wednesdays uh, are a place where we get top guests from the Web3, crypto, and blockchain space. And today we have with us a really interesting guest. We have Abin Arjun, who's the founder of Aura. Aura is doing quite a few remarkable stints in the NFT space, and he's going to talk all about that, his journey in the NFT Web3 space, while we start the show. And we'll wait for, I think, a minute or so before we actually go ahead and start. In the meantime, how are you doing, Abin?
All good, Varun. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
Thank you
pleasure to
so
be
much
here.
for joining our live today. I'm seeing that on Binance, we already have about 50 users have joined in, and on our YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, people are still joining in. So we won't keep our communities waiting for long. I will just go ahead and start our live session for today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Voice Out Wednesdays, where we get really special guests from the Web3, crypto, and blockchain space. And like I already mentioned today, we have Abin Arjun, the founder of Aura, with us. He has had an illustrious career in the Web3 space, specifically in the NFT space, and which is why we've titled today's episodes Unveiling NFT Mysteries. What mysteries we're going to unveil is something that we'll find out eventually as we go throughout this episode. But firstly, I would love to extend a warm welcome to you, Abin, from Voice of Crypto, from on behalf of our communities. Welcome to our platform, and it's great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Varun. Thank you for having me also on the platform. Yeah, pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. So I think the first question that I always ask my guests is that Web3 is such a new space. I'm sure that when we were growing up as kids, we hadn't even imagined that something like Web3 would exist, let alone Web3. We hadn't even thought about Web2 being the way it is now. So how did you sort of land up in this space? What got you into this crazy mess that is the crypto Web3 blockchain space?
Right. So, I was involved in the blockchain space overall from I think a spectator view since 16, 17, and Ethereum, Polygon, and all of the layer one, layer two solutions sort of went pretty big around 2020. So that sort of piqued my interest, and NFTs went crazy in 21. And NFTs was something which is more of a consumer facing business use case, so to say, and that sort of attracted me to this space. And we started Aura with the idea of NFTs with gaming, but NFTs overall have a larger utility. It started off with, I think, art as the vertical. It did pretty well, even though right now times may seem tough from the overall NFT space, but I think there is a longer shelf life for NFTs overall.
Absolutely. So glad to hear that at least insiders are optimistic about this space. On the other hand, if you look at mainstream media reporting, not a very bright picture is being painted for the NFT space or the future of NFTs. You briefly mentioned how utilities of NFTs have grown, which we would talk about eventually. But first, can you talk about how you came up with the idea of Aura, and how did you and your team sort of meet and built this
Sure.
platform?
So, right. So basically, the idea started wherein when we started out, I think late 21, early 22, NFT marketplaces as a concept was already pretty live. OpenSea was by far, I think when I started first following OpenSea, they had roughly 2 million NFTs listed on their platform. And I think within 6 months, that number boomed to, I think, 25 million. So I knew this space is going to get saturated. And then a flurry of other NFT marketplaces came in, like Rarible, Foundation. I think Magic Eden also came at a later half. So because all of these marketplaces already existed, we actively chose not to participate in this flow because it's already a saturated market, and eventually it's going to be a few marketplaces that stand. And I'm a passionate gamer, and gaming is something that really like it's a natural calling. So I thought like NFT has a very good match with gaming, because game has in-app inventories, so to say, or in-app costumes or articles, which gamers do buy, sell, trade, and also buy in general. There is a demonstrated experience of people buying or customizing their avatars or just buying in-app assets, right? So that I felt was a natural extension for NFTs to come in, wherein how about the accessories that you buy can stay permanently with you and have like a proof of concept or even a live proof on blockchain, right? So that is where we started out, and we are sort of building in that space only, wherein we are exclusively focused on the gaming communities. Gaming outside Web3 also is very big and
Yeah.
has been moving in the last few years. So that is how we came across, okay, this is how we want to do it. About the team, so we slowly built up, initially in India and then outside as well. And our focus markets right now are like the Asian markets, because gaming is big in Asia, and a few European, Australian markets also.
Absolutely. So, talking about the gaming markets, and you're right to say that for gamers, I mean, it's easier to sort of have someone like gamers as your target audience. It does seem like a low hanging fruit if you look at it like that, when you have to pitch something like decentralized assets to them. So, it did make sense to make a move in the market. Talking about the geographies, you very well mentioned that the Asian communities are, let's say, more enthusiastic about the entire gaming landscape. So, what is your approach towards the Asian markets? And I might be wrong, but I think that the Indian market is sort of still a few steps behind as compared to the rest of the Asian market. Do you see any hope that the Indian markets will sort of scale up in the going future, in the coming future, or I mean, how do you think the Asian markets will look like with India in the picture going forward?
Right. So India, like as you rightly said, it's still I would say early stages. There are a lot of Indian-led games that are being developed, and also catering to the Indian audiences. Um, a lot of, I think, Asian, when I say like Japanese or South Korean, or even in Philippines, right? There are larger game studios who are producing AAA grade games in Web 2 and now also in Web 3. So, for example, there is Konami that is developing a Web 3 game. And there is, I think, NHN Corporation, which is, I think, based out of South Korea, which is also now moving into Web 3 games as well. On the Indian landscape, there are a few game studios which are making moves. Uh, it's not a matter of like will they be able to do it, but I think it's a matter of when they'll be able to do it. So there is some time, but I think 5 to 10 year horizon we should also be probably there.
Hmm. So, how receptive do you think a market like India, and we can say that the audience is relatively conservative. So, how receptive do you think a market like India would be to, let's say, decentralized gaming concepts of NFTs or blockchain embedded assets?
So I think like they're already receptive that way. There are a few Web 2.5 platforms which are sort of bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. What essentially they are doing is like sort of gamifying a platform experience of sorts and giving like Web 2 gamers demos or asking them to just sample a few games from Web3 and in terms get some sort of reward in a decentralized manner, which they can then use in the in-app environment of sorts, right? So there are plays in there, and India being India, it's a huge market overall, right? And the internet penetration is high, so you of course get a lot of gamers. In terms of monetization, maybe a little far,
Mm-hmm.
because overall India is a price sensitive market. So getting something to pay for a service which is still not there yet, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, like people will wait it out, like wait for something more polished to come across, as compared to say a more Asian market wherein they're still putting up money even in experimental projects and seeing if this works out or not. But yeah, for India, I think it'll be some time, but I think we'll get there. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if we talk about the current overview of the NFT market, and you rightly initially also mentioned that the statistics might not be as glimmering as they were, let's say, a year ago, or when the NFT market saw the boom that it did sometime last year, if I'm not wrong. And now, on the other hand, on a whole, trading volumes of the top platforms have sort of dwindled, and prices for a lot of top NFTs have dropped down to their all-time lows. So, not a very great picture in terms of numbers. But as an insider, as an entrepreneur, where do you think the market stands at this point? And if you have to give a more general overview of the NFT market, what is that from your point of view?
So I think like with any new technology, right? Like I think
Mm-hmm.
NFTs are like 2.5 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
think of it like wherein you could go back to maybe like a early social media stage. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of products came into picture, and then eventually like a few bigger products did extremely well because of network effects and everything, right? So it takes time to find the correct product market fit. So with NFTs also, I think that it's the same thing happening. The initial hype has died down, which I think is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing overall,
Mm-hmm.
because consumers or who are early adopters spend to tend to spend a lot of time and energy into like trying out a lot of things. Some work,
Yeah.
some maybe don't work. So they also deserve like a overall a fair chance of okay trying something great eventually, right? So maybe a lot of not so great products fail and weed out to actually have like better or sustainable projects which will sort of take the correct utility out of this, right? So for example, say when a Yuga Lab does a collection, right? Their pitch always has been the same, like it is a premium membership of sorts of an art connoisseur. It's limited in nature. They
Mm-hmm.
do a limited mint, right?
Mm-hmm.
A good parallel is if you visit like an art gallery, there is a limited audience who
Yeah.
appreciate art, and hence the value sort of remains because it's scarce, it's limited. But if we abuse that system, right, like, and with NFTs, that has sort of happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
now you don't have scarcity and you just make more replicas. Of course things are gonna come crashing down eventually, and with the power of internet, like, and the whole world wide web, if you mint n infinity number of NFTs, of course not everything is scarce then, right? So that happened, and now we are sort of seeing a correction, but more resilient collections sort of have even survived till now.
Mm-hmm.
And the true connoisseurs, or so to say, like believers in those art forms, will still stick to them, and
Yeah.
we'll see like probably not a heyday, but maybe price
Mm-hmm.
appreciation in some time in the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You did mention the word utility quite a few times in our discussion up until now, and the utility of NFTs have been highly debated. While we have seen quite a few use cases, especially in the ticketing sector, or even music NFTs or sports NFTs, which have seen decent growth, I think, despite the market being where it was. What other utilities come off? Like, do you have right off the top of your mind if you have to say a few? And do you think that
So,
the use cases will sort of increase as we go ahead, or there would be a certain number of use cases that, as an industry, we would address for NFTs?
so like rightly you said, right? Like, there's music, there's sports, there's ticketing.
Mm,
Those are three taken care of. There's gaming, which we are working on.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, it eventually boils down to what does a NFT represent? It basically represents like an token identification on the blockchain, and sort of open for all to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even as basic as say like a property registration, right? If it's tokenized and put it up on a blockchain, you have like a proof of record, and that can be put up. Right now, because the blockchain is super open, maybe
Yeah.
not the safest option to do that. Like you don't want everyone to query your home
Mm-hmm.
address, what property you bought and at what price. But there are people working on sort of anonymizing that data packet, right? But still accessible for people who do wish to access via like a verified manner, right? So there are multiple such applications that can come into the fore, which can be addressed by the NFT as a token standard. So
Mm-hmm.
I think overall, as we move forward, as and when like safety, privacy, and decentralization come to the fore of like technology overall,
Hmm.
right? I think these use cases will pick up steam, and it's not like only one company or a one product or one project will do this. It'll be, I think, multiplication of like effort from collaborative effort of multiple companies. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, safety and privacy, you rightly said, have been some of the major concerns that users as well as enterprises have sort of faced or have to face, still are battling, so to say. So, what do you think? What are some of your top advices that you give to amateurs or beginners in this space who have just entered this space when it comes to dealing with NFTs? Because these are concerns that oftentimes even we as entrepreneurs fail to address. So, how are you doing that at Aura, and what do you do to ensure this certain user privacy, safety?
All right. So, like right off the bat, I would say, don't share your seed phrase with anyone. It's just like, yeah, it's very very unsafe, and don't store it probably on your phone or your laptop, because those are like connected to internet. There is a great chance that someone can scam you of your seed phrase, and if you lose access to your seed phrase, that is sort of end of the road for you
Hmm.
with your wallet. If you are someone who does have activity in a few thousands of dollars, ideally split it into multiple wallets so that even if one of your wallets get compromised, you have some sort of a backup.
Yeah.
And typical Web2 scams, like don't click on malicious links, don't revert back to an email that you think is fishy, right? Like there's a lot of social engineering happening
Hmm.
when scams happen in Web3, and you see
Yeah.
a lot of things already done in Web2. It's just that people expect, okay, Web3 is like a savior of everything. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Like you
Hmm.
see very standard scams happening. So
Yeah.
just be aware of what projects you're interacting with. If it's like you want to do experimental stuff wherein the wallet that you use, you're going to use that at multiple places, then probably don't store too much tokens in that, so that
Yeah.
even if that wallet gets hacked or compromised, you stand nothing to lose. So
Hmm.
that's so some basic things to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm sure that anyone who's been in the Web3 space for long enough has either been scammed, or someone has tried to scam them, or their name has been used for scams. I think I fall under the second and the third one, because my name has been used by some fishy people to scam other people, even though they didn't go through. And people have tried to scam me. Thankfully, touch wood, I have not been scammed officially yet. But have you encountered any such issues? If so, can you just walk
Yeah,
us
yeah,
through
yeah,
how
for
you
sure.
battled it?
Yeah, I have received Telegram messages impersonating like VC funds or people from the VC space or angel investing space, or even from blockchains, wherein, hey, join this link. We are having a video call. Would be great to listen to your project pitch. Would love to participate here. Would love for a collaboration.
Yeah.
It seems very normal when you see the link. So I always open up it in a very different device, so that
Mm-hmm.
which is not connected to any wallet per se. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you click on that, there's no connection to the wallet, so you're sort of safe.
Mm.
And I think just a couple of steps down the line, you know, okay, this is a scam. So you just
Mm.
like, okay, thank you so much. I'll never talk to you again. Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, Abin, when we talk about a space like NFTs or even gaming, I think communities are such an essential part of any such infrastructure, gaming or NFTs, and a large driving force behind how projects will function, or how the space itself will sort of act or pan out or be in terms of revenues, largely depends on their communities. And we've seen that Web3 communities are starkly different from Web2 communities or any other communities that we have seen up until the date. So, what sort of communities do you have? Like, what sort of communities do you have at your firm, and how have you seen your communities or communities in general, Web3 communities, evolve over the last few years?
Right. So like at Aura, what like we are all about gaming. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, there are a few games called Zed Run, Red Village.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like horse racing simulation game or one-on-one battle game, right? So how we approach communities, our job is to ensure that these communities feel needed and heard. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
features or whatever end objectives they are looking at, right? Those are sort of fulfilled. End
Mm-hmm.
of the day, there needs to be engagement with the community. So what we at Aura try to do is be part of their communities to figure out, okay, what is it that they need, and is that something that we can deliver on via our platform, via our project? If yes, then we do go ahead and commit that, okay, this is something that we do. So, for example, one of our products called tournaments. So, in that, it's essentially for the communities. Like, if you play a game and you, it's ideally like when you play online gaming, play against mostly unknown folks, right?
Yeah.
But say if by playing you know a few folks online, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you wish
Mm-hmm.
to play amongst each other, even in Web 2, it's a little difficult to form a
Yeah.
party and a lobby and figure out how to play together, right? So what we have done is we have created a module wherein you sign up, you build a tournament workflow on our platform, and you invite your buddies and just make it a private tournament, play amongst yourself. Your leaderboard gets updated. If you want to do like an open tournament or host an open tournament, that's also up to you. You can put up
Okay.
a prize money, you can not put up a prize money. It's totally up to
Mm-hmm.
you. So we
Mm-hmm.
sort of listen to the community to see what is it that they want.
Yeah.
Eventually, that works out a lot good for a lot of games
Mm-hmm.
in our industry. I think the same is true for multiple NFT collections also.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of listen to what the community wants and try and implement them and see how it goes. So if you keep the community happy, eventually they are the ones who are sort of cheerleaders for you, right? So if you're able to not disappoint them, I think you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So I think before anything else, you are an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur in the Web3 space sort of comes with its own set of challenges. It's a very fast-paced space, and 2 years seem like a decade sometimes. So how have you managed to sort of sustain the business in the bear market that we saw while if at all were you guys making revenues, and how did you sort of strike a balance between having your employees in place, generating revenues, and keeping the firm intact?
Right. So, fortunately for us, like we raised investment at
Mm-hmm.
the seed stage, right, and a decent amount of investment, which sort of set us for the next 2 3 years. The first year mostly went into like beta testing and just understanding from a few gaming communities on what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that they would require in terms of a product? We had a product vision that we wanted to implement and develop,
Yeah.
but we ensure that we get quality feedback and then come out with the product. So over the last 2 years, that has overall been our case, wherein we have spent conservatively in terms of
Mm-hmm.
just first figuring out a product market fit, if even there is one.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, in our case, there is one. We have gotten enough traction and enough, I would say, engagement from users that we know, okay, this is something that consumers want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Second, we sort of have a remote only environment. So that is one good thing in the sense um, it doesn't limit us in terms of who joins our team. We don't have a physical limitation, so to say. So we have teams in India, Hong
Mm-hmm.
Kong, Dubai. So that way, getting people on board was relatively easy. Um, and 2 years have sort of gone by in this time. And because of the funds that we raised earlier, it has sort of sailed us smoothly till now. Yeah.
Understood. So what were your sort of biggest challenges building the firm that you did?
Uh, I think getting the right people on board, it's a difficult thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like building a vision is one thing, but then communicating and convincing people that hey, do you also want to work building this vision, right? So I think that has been challenge. Fortunately for me and my team, I think great people are joined in. Like my co-founder Praveen, he comes from a great technical background. he
Mm-hmm.
has been able to convince a good tech team to join him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also got like great product managers on board, people from marketing, business development. Overall, like we assembled a great team from like multiple different tech
Yeah.
companies. So I think that has been great. Yeah.
Hmm. So, do you also dabble a little bit in crypto, if at all? And if so, what are your sort of top portfolio management tips and tricks? And what sort of mantra do you have for investing in either crypto or
Okay.
other,
So
let's just
I'm
say,
not
assets?
into too much trading. I think
Mm-hmm.
way back I might have bought some BTC, and
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. I
that
kept
that must have
everything
been
in
interesting.
BTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because like I don't have a thing for trading overall. I know people who have done trading amazingly well, but it
Mm-hmm.
requires, I would say, time, effort,
Absolutely.
and patience in terms of like which calls do you take and not.
Hmm.
Um, Building aura takes time, so I have
Hmm.
dedicated only to this right now. In terms of portfolio, I don't pretty much. I have BTC, and I think I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I'm sure if you bought BTC back then, by now, that must have grown
It
up
has
to.
gone through highs and lows, so it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Let's
Yeah,
not talk about that. And wish you luck with your BTC holdings. Uh,
yeah.
you are an entrepreneur. You've been an entrepreneur in this space for almost 2, 3 years now. So, what are your top tips that you give to budding entrepreneurs? And there are so many young entrepreneurs in this space now, trying to build projects, and some of the projects are trying to address real problems. On the other hand, other projects are sort of trying to compete with existing projects in the market. So, what are your top advices for budding entrepreneurs in this space?
I would say like figure out a monetization strategy much
Mm-hmm.
earlier, right? Like it's great building products and technical projects, right? Because it does solve a problem.
Yeah.
But you need to answer a question: is someone going to pay for this? Eventually,
Mm-hmm.
like there are no free lunches in the world. If you have investors backing you, they expect a return. So where is that money going to come from, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as a team leader, right, you are responsible for like salaries for your teammates, right? Where is that money coming from? So up till a point, experimentation and just ideating on what do you wish to build is great, but you need to figure out a great revenue channel so that once you are done in terms of discovery and probably some sort of attraction, you start having paying users and paying subscribers of whatever your product is. Second, I would say is like building a great team. Like, forget the tags and everything. Like in India, for example, don't chase after IIT, IM tags or any tags per se or any big companies like are you from Google, Facebook, anything. But figure out a great fit for you. Like
Yeah.
whosoever is your co-founder, are they in line with you? Do they have like mutually exclusive skill set, right? Like wherein you're complementing each other,
Yeah.
and the team also has to have like ownership on like what they are doing. You are when you're starting out, you don't have a brand, so essentially you are building a brand. So why should someone believe that you have what it takes? So at the end of the day, you have to ensure that you build a great team and empower them. Don't give them random lollipops that hey,
Mm,
this will happen, that will happen. Be realistic on what you can do and like don't overpromise to your teammates because it doesn't end well if you overpromise and underdeliver. Yeah.
absolutely. That does make a lot of sense. So I think my final question, we're almost towards the end of our session today as well. My final question to you will be that the last couple of years have been nothing short of a roller coaster ride in the crypto market or even the Web3 space. Development, however, has been key. What are your top expectations? And I would like to reiterate once again for everyone watching that nothing that we say on these live sessions or chats is financial advice. Please go ahead and do your own research. After that, Abin, what are your top sort of not predictions, your top anticipations or expectations from whatever's left in this year? And what do you think the Bitcoin halving will get sort of bring to the market, and how do you think the next year will look like for the Web3 market?
So I think right now it's a little bit of a wintry phase.
Mm-hmm.
The investment flowing is in low, but I think that's also one of the great times wherein you're able to build a resilient and I think a long-standing product or project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think for the next year, I'm super optimistic because at least in the gaming sector, we are seeing a lot of investment flow through. Animoca, A16Z, a lot of such great funds have
Hmm.
backed a lot of promising projects. There are more infrastructure projects coming in, which sort of expand what you can do in blockchains. So I think the development is going to be very fast paced over the next few years
Mm-hmm.
at least, and we'll see more and more value being derived out of these ecosystems.
All right, and final question: what is the roadmap of Aura looking like to sort of align with this expectation of yours?
So we are sort of onboarding more and more games. We started off with Polygon, and then we did Binance, and right now we are live with Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Avalanche. And we are soon hoping to onboard Solana, Flow, Wax, Sui, Manta,
Mm-hmm.
Mantle. So our goal is to have a like blockchain agnostic ecosystem at
Mm-hmm.
hand, wherein we have uh, every game possible under our umbrella, and people come and discover multiple games, buy NFTs from them, and play it in their game, and build tournaments with us. So that's the end goal for us, wherein yeah, we sort of blow big from here and we'll go to the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty amazing. And I wish you all the very best for this roadmap or plan of yours. And I hope and wish that Aura will be able to see all of the success that you do wish. And thank you so much for this really fun chat. It was an absolutely insightful and interesting session for me. And I'm sure for all our guests, for all our viewers who joined today. Once again, big shout out to Abin, Arjun from Aura. And check out Aura, check out what they're doing. Also, check out Arvin's profiles. I'm sure that he'll keep you updated about what's happening in their project. And
All right.
thanks again.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure
Thanks so much,
chatting with you.
Arvin.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank
The pleasure
you.
was ours. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week with another really interesting guest. And until then, bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.